Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today I wanted to do almost a part 2 of the last message that I've done, which was on the wounded feminine. And today I am doing the wounded masculine energy. I just want to be clear for those that are in the twin flame dynamic, and I, say this in my videos all the time, but let's say this is the first time you're catching this message, and you're not, aware of this. But when we say divine masculine, that is not the same as when we refer to the masculine energy. Okay, when we refer to the masculine energy, we are talking about the individual in the twin flame dynamic that is actually the runner in the connection. Versus when you're talking about the feminine energy, it's whoever is the chaser, the one that is more inquisitive about the connection, the one that is willing to do the research, who wants union to happen. So in this video, I really want to talk about, the wounded masculine energy so that you can really understand what that individual in the twin flame dynamic is really going through, why they are unable to, meet you for union. And really, it helps to change your perspective, hopefully, and really allows you to give them the space to, go through their own healing journey while you're focusing on the inner journey. The feminine energy, whoever is the chaser in this dynamic, must be the one to, start doing that inner work so that the divine counterpart can really follow. It's not until the feminine energy raises their vibration that the second, divine counterpart, the twin soul, can do the same thing. So with that, I really wanted to talk about the wounding that the masculine energy, being the runner, really goes through. Now, just to be clear, before I actually go into the wounding, I want to emphasize that the wounded masculine, is the wounded masculine simply because their strength, logic, and leadership have been distorted by some form of fear, some form of trauma, or societal conditioning that they've gone through or within their family. Now, these wounds on this journey need to be, need to come up. They can't remain unconscious. So they need to be seen, acknowledged, and healed by the masculine energy in order for them to integrate this. Just like the feminine energy has to go through their healing journey, the masculine has to do this as well. Now, the number one core wound that really comes up is the wound of unworthiness. This is when, really, and if you want to apply it to the twin flame dynamic, the way that the surfaces is, prior to the masculine energy really meeting the feminine energy, their life has really been going their way in the sense of they've made sense of their world the best way that they can. They've suppressed their emotions. They've been avoiding their emotions. And then comes along a mirror, the chaser in the dynamic that really holds up that mirror to them. Even if you're not saying this to them, through your words, you reflect an energy that makes all their fears, all their past wounds really come to the surface. And all they have is a little voice in their head that says, I am not good enough. I am not worthy. And so this foundational wound for the, masculine energy becomes the primary reason why they begin to run. Now, in case you're wondering, what does this, wound really show up as? Well, when the masculine energy is living in that distorted energy, there is a constant need for them in life to prove their value through hard work, through achievement, through productivity, through gaining some form of power in their dynamics. They have this massive fear of failure or being seen as weak by others. So, they put up and wear this mask so that others can't really see what they're really lacking. And overall, there is confusion around their identity, their purpose, their direction in life, yet they still, work through life circumstances as if they're on a treadmill, just running over and over, through the same things without really having to take a hard look at what's really going wrong in their life. Now, this can show up because of, multiple different experiences that they've gone through. It could be, familial, where they haven't had the right role models in their life. It could have been due to betrayal. It can be due to, ancestral patterns that have been passed down through and to them. So this could show up in so many ways. But once it is actually healed for the masculine energy, their worth is no longer earned through performance. And that's where we really want to see the masculine energy really reach to. They become really, once they're able to integrate this, wound within them, they're able to be present. They're able to act from a place of integrity, and responsibility becomes the new foundation, because the masculine energy is all about structure. It's all about presence. It's all about, building the right foundations and protection of, that, in this case, in your divine counterpart, it's taking care of your divine counterpart in the way that they need. Now, for whoever is actually the feminine energy in the twin flame dynamic, it really helps to understand that, there's a lot of healing to be done. So if you're sitting there thinking, why won't, the masculine energy really speak to me? What's going on? Why is the runner always running? Understand that you confronting them, you trying to speak to them, just, really brings everything to the surface and creates an overwhelm which they're not ready to deal with. And so all they do when they're running harder is they run into, excessive control and rigid patterns, possibly dominance, if that's been the way that they've been dealing with stuff. And it can show up as dominance through leadership at work. They may throw themselves into work because they have now an addiction to work, to try and hide the pain from whatever they have or whatever they don't want to look at. And so when you are trying to get their attention, this is kind of having the reverse effect. And so you're just going to make them run even further and further. So take a pause, really work on your own self, and allow them to work through their own healing. Now, the other way this can also show up, the reverse side of this, is they could be avoiding responsibility. They lack the clarity, so they're, very indecisive in their life. This can also show up as emotional withdrawal or being passive. They have maybe not the ability to really commit to other people because they can't hold down that structure, which, a healthy masculine energy should be able to do. So now, in case you're wondering, well, what will a healthy masculine look like when this has all been integrated? And, being the feminine energy, if you're listening to this and you're trying to attract back the masculine in for union, well, when the masculine energy is healthy enough to come back into union, they will be able to act from a place of integrity. They will have the clarity. They'll be, able to commit. They'll be able to hold down a steady structure and move in that direction. They'll be able to make space for their emotions without, collapsing or without feeling like they're overwhelmed and can't express themselves. They'll actually be able to step into a place of being able to protect, their divine counterpart, and also creating a family with their divine counterpart. If that's, something that you want and you're at an age where you're able to do that. And also they're able to just lead through presence, not through force, not through aggression, not through any form of dominance. So this is key to understand, because really what this tells you is that when the masculine energy finally is able to come back in for union, what that will look like and what you should be able to accept, and how if they've actually healed enough. And really you'll be able to tell from your own progression on the journey if it's the right time, if you've stepped into wholeness or not. But another way to really test out the masculine energy is if they are operating from this place. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this was helpful. God bless.